Hey everyone, Saf Tech Reviews back here with another video. It's been a while and I really wanted to make a video about comparing the OnePlus Open to the ZFold 5. I've looked at, the specs of the OnePlus Open and they were quite impressive compared to the ZFold 5, and I thought to myself, it's a great idea, let's take the leap and get the OnePlus Open. What I realized over the course of a month is that it's very hard to switch to the OnePlus Open after having used the ZFold 5, despite of the shortcomings of the ZFold 5. And I really want to get into what those reasons were and why I switched back. So first off, let me just get the hardware out of the way and talk about what's impressive about the OnePlus Open. Right off the bat, the OnePlus Open has a wider screen than the ZFold 5. It's much lighter, even though it is wider and it has kind of a wider ratio on the inside. It's actually a much lighter phone to use. Some of the other really impressive features are the multitasking abilities on it are really good, and something else I've noticed that's pretty nice, a neat feature in here, is if you go down all the way to the settings, it actually gives you the ability to modify your RAM. So if you go here, the RAM is at 16 plus 4, and you can actually use the internal storage to expand it to another 12 gigs, which is kind of wild. So you can have 28 gigs of RAM on this phone. Very impressive, has plenty of storage. It's a great phone when you look at these things. I compared the camera to the ZFold 5, and the camera on this phone, even when I compared that, it was actually beating the ZFold 5, especially when it comes to low light situations. It was doing a better job. So when it comes to the battery, this phone has a 4,800 milliamp hour battery. This one has a 4,400 milliamp hour battery. This phone has lasted me way more than the ZFold 5 when I use it throughout the day. Not only that, this phone charges from 0 to 100 in 40 minutes. This one takes an hour and 30 minutes from my own experience. It's officially an hour and 20, but mine has always done it in an hour and 30. So you must be asking, you're crazy, why are you switching from the ZFold 5 to the OnePlus Open? This has more RAM, better, wider front screen, much better battery, charges much faster. So why would you make that switch? Why would you switch back to this? And I will agree on some things. When you hold this phone, it does feel like you went back in technology. When you touch the ZFold 4, it just feels a little heavier, clunkier, like in the hand compared to this one. But what this nails really well is the software. This phone, to my surprise, has had so many bugs that I think it is just, for me at least, not really usable. It has been quite frustrating in so many different aspects that it's just hard to use. Switching from this phone to this phone took me maybe 5 hours. This phone kept crashing when you're trying to transfer things. I had to restart the process several times. I thought it ended there. Instagram, for example, when I open a video, sometimes when I click any other video, it will open the same video. I've tried to uninstall Instagram, I've tried everything, same behavior. It's glitched. When I went and installed Slack for work, I tried to type my messages in Slack. It actually wouldn't let me type anything. No matter what I mash in the keyboard, it would glitch. And you can look this up. There's posts on Reddit about Swift key on the OnePlus breaking when you're using it with Slack. Never faced any of these issues on the ZFold 5, right? These are just two issues right off the bat. Android Auto, when I connect it to my car, for some reason the contrast and the colors are off when I use this phone versus this phone on my car screen. It is a very strange glitch. Android Auto glitches on my car when I use this phone. It's never glitched with the Z Fold 5. These are just some things right off the top of my head that I can think of in terms of software that already happened to me, that are very frustrating. And it's just, you know, it's very strange, right? Some other things is modifying the home screen on the OnePlus Open. After I set up all my icons and I installed my work profile, it put all my apps back on the front screen without me doing anything. There was no reason for this phone to do that. Very strange glitch. When I came to save my contacts, and it's funny just repeating this because to me it sounds like I'm exaggerating. I'm really not. I faced all of these problems in my time with this phone. When I tried to add a contact, it wouldn't update the contact. It would say it's saved, but in all my messages and everywhere else, it would still show the person's number. After 30 minutes, it would show their name. I've never seen that like on any other phone. This phone's updated and everything. I've updated the software. Still has these strange glitches and quirks. Let me get to the second point, which for me is very important. I'm a user that likes to keep my fonts small on my device so I can, you know, read more things and more conversations and things like that. I like to see more. If you look at the font on my Z Fold 5, it's very refined, right? Over here, no matter what I did, even when I went to the developer settings and modified it, what I actually had to do was go here and down here. That's the smallest width. I had to modify that so that I can see more on the screen. But even with that, if I open a keyboard here, these keys are much larger than here. Here it's much more defined. If you see, the layout is very different. The default keyboard that came on the OnePlus is the G board, which I don't like. I switched it to SwiftKey. It's still very clunky when I try to type on it. Here it was always easy. You know, I can reach everything. So that's one thing. Another thing that's very, very interesting to me, and it only hit me later, is, yeah, you know what? You get the bigger screen here. Now tell me, having opened this eBay app on both phones, in which one do you see more information? That's funny, right? You see more information on the phone with the screen that has less width. And that's because Samsung really optimized these phones. I can see more in this app versus here. And this doesn't just stop here. This is the same. I mean, let me jump into Amazon on both. Look at this. I can see more on my Z Fold 5 versus on my OnePlus Open. And the other thing is comparing the speed of both phones. The Z Fold 5 is actually faster in opening all the applications from my experience. The only time where the OnePlus Open gets close in performance to this phone is if I put it in performance mode. Right now it is in performance mode, and you know what? The battery lasts a very long time, even in performance mode, compared to the Z Fold 5. But still, the Z Fold 5 a lot of the time will beat it. Let me try closing out Amazon here. As an example, I'll just try it, but this is in performance mode now, so maybe this is not the best test, right? But let's try. 1 second. So here, let me just give a quick shot. 3, 2, 1, bam. And you see the Z Fold pretty much is on par, and this is not even in performance mode. Let's try this. And I don't love these tests because they are kind of pointless, but if I switch performance mode off here, this takes significantly longer to open the applications versus this one. Moving on from that actual point here, one really frustrating thing is on the Z Fold, if you do this and hit close all applications, it closes them all. OnePlus has decided that if you hit close all, the current application should remain open. Why? Can I change the setting? No, I can't. I can't modify it. Why is that? Why do I have to hit close all and then swipe up? It seems a little frustrating, right? These are the things in the software that honestly, it's a big miss for OnePlus to build the phone this way. They missed on a big opportunity. I truly believe this is one of the best, if not the best, foldable out there in terms of hardware. But they have hugely missed the mark in terms of software. And I mean, that's the frustrating part. In terms of hardware, where I think the Z Fold outshines this phone is the vibration motor. It is way better on the Z Fold 4. I had to turn the haptics off on this phone for a while because it feels very cheap. It feels like those older phones' haptics. On the Z Fold, the haptics are very crisp. They're like the iPhones, you know how they have very strong haptics and they're very precise. That's what it feels like on the Z Fold 5. On here, it's really bad. The other thing, this phone has the S Pen. I know a lot of people don't use it. That's cool. I use it personally to take notes a lot of the time. This provides me this option. This doesn't have that option of an S Pen, right? But that's not a deal breaker. The speakers are better on the OnePlus. The inner screen, in my opinion, is nicer. I mean, and I can just show you very quickly here. In terms of the crease, you can barely see the crease on the OnePlus. When it comes to the Z Fold 5, there's more of a crease. I mean, if you see here in the reflection, and then on the OnePlus Open, if I pull that up here, you could see it's really barely noticeable. And I think they did a great job here. But you get that camera bump here, whereas you don't even really see it on the Z Fold, because the screen has like a layer over that, right? Both. Once again, which phone can you see more on? You can see more on the Z Fold. I see more content on this screen. So what's the point of having a screen this big if I can't even... I won't say what's the point, it's still a great experience, but why can I not see more here, right? I have a very seamless, clean experience here because when I'm using my Z Fold, I don't have that camera hole. So it's nice, it feels like a continuous tablet. When you look here, that's not the case because you have that. Yes, the inner camera on the Z Fold 5 is horrible compared to this one. I will agree. But this is a nicer experience because really you never use the inner camera when you're using the phone. Now, something that OnePlus did an incredible job on, and kudos to them, is the multitasking. So you have the ability here to swipe down like that, and I love the concepts. You could see here that multitasking capability, right? And it's super cool. Now, what I really love about this is you can add a third app, and just to show you an example, I'll pull up, you know, ChatGPT or something. And if you drag it here, it adds it. Now you have the ability to have 3 apps. And if I click here, it goes to these 2 apps. If I click here, it goes back to these 2 apps. That is a beautiful idea. Now let me compare one thing here when it comes to the screen real estate. I'm just going to open a simple game like Angry Birds. This is again the Z Fold 5, and that's your OnePlus Open. Now let me just compare them side by side. So you could see there's a lot of missed real estate on the OnePlus Open. Z Fold 5, it's using the majority of the screen, if not all of it, right? And then once the game starts, you get this type of issue, where the camera bump overlaps your icons in the game. In the Z Fold 5, that's not a problem. Yes, this is a bigger screen, right? It's wider that way, but this screen is just more seamless. And again, I like that a lot when it comes to this phone. Now, let's talk a little again about the performance here, and I can just show you a quick thing, but you could see that the Z Fold 5 will almost always be faster. And again, I'll do this again right here, right? So let me try to load this level. You see, without fail, The Z Fold 5 has always been faster for me in most, if not all, of the applications. So I'm not surprised there. I mean, that's the normal. This infrared sensor, which is really cool, because you have a remote here that you can control your TV with. That's something Samsung doesn't have. And I call that kind of like the cool feature of this phone. I think more phones should have that. It's convenient when you can't find your TV remote at home and you want to switch the channel. One thing this phone does that this phone doesn't do is this phone has wireless charging. I don't care a lot about that, but I think it's a nice to have when it comes to this. One other thing I noticed between both phones, which, to be honest, I prefer the experience on the Z Fold 5 when it comes to this, is the fingerprint sensor. The fingerprint sensor on the Z Fold, if you hold the phone and put your finger on it, it won't do anything. What you do is you click and then you touch it with your fingerprint and then it unlocks, and it's instantaneous. Like, watch this. It's really like instant. Watch, I'm gonna touch 1, 2, 3. It's very fast. Now, on the OnePlus, interestingly, it's always active. Like, if I'm not pressing anything, if I just touch it, it unlocks. I'm not sure if I like that, because when I'm trying to open the camera, when I double click it, it locks the screen and then unlocks and then opens the camera. It feels so strange when you do that, because it keeps vibrating. I mean, it works, but it feels very odd, because it's trying to authenticate you with your fingerprint, but also trying to open the camera. Again, something I feel like wasn't thought through. Here, when I do it, it opens the camera and doesn't lock my screen. It's these little things that when you use this phone, they'll continue to add up. Another interesting glitch, because many people will find it hard to believe that I say this. Phone has this many glitches, but let me show you a funny one. I happen to own a Garmin Mark U Captain. Beautiful watch. I love this watch. I'll just put it down here. Now, the watch is currently connected to my OnePlus Open. Check this out. Today I was working and I was working with a client, and they asked me to time something, and I was like, yeah, sure, let me fire up a stopwatch on this phone. And I started it, and then I quit the application. Now, out of nowhere, I thought someone was messaging me for an emergency, right? Because I didn't know what was happening. But watch this. Seriously? The phone is notifying me every time a second passes on the stopwatch. These are the and listen to this. Imagine this on your wrist. Imagine that while you're in the middle of work, right? And it's because the stopwatch, whoever did the software on the OnePlus, thought it's a great idea to update the stopwatch and the notification center by sending a notification for each second. That is ridiculous. I mean, that is a big, in my opinion, a big mess up, because when that happened to me today, that was the turning point for me to move away from this phone. I was like, I'm done with the bugs. I would like to move back to my phone, the Z Fold 5, which rarely has given me any issues. And that's really why I love it. One other thing that's kind of, you know, a big plus for the Z Fold 5. This phone has one-handed mode. And if you don't know what that is, it allows you to use the phone with one hand. And typically in this mode, it's kind of hard to reach anywhere, obviously, if you're one-handing it. I know you shouldn't be, but let's say you are. On this phone, if you swipe down, well, it doesn't work maybe here. But if you do it here, it will bring the screen down, kind of like the iPhone, and then you can, you know, select something and then it will bring it back up. Now let's contrast that to the experience on the Z Fold 5 with the one-handed mode. You swipe down, it shrinks the screen where it is truly reachable. Very easy. And you can even resize this. But even better, and you're like, I really want to get to that clock icon. You could just do the same here and look. I don't have to do anything. You can't do that on your other phone. There's no setting there. There's a lot of additional features they added, which I love, with their whole AI approach. One of them is you click and hold at the bottom here, pulls up this mode. You can circle anything. Let's say I want to find out what this is. It's like, oh, I know what that is. That's a location in Japan or whatever. And I've actually found a lot of cool stuff like that. Sometimes I'm on Instagram and I'm like, hey, what car is that? And I just go boop, boop, and I'm done. And I figure out what it is, right? I love that. You don't really get that with the other phone. The Edge panel, beautiful on this phone. You can do a lot. You can open your apps. You can select stuff and extract text on the go. So I can just pick this. And then, you know, let's say I want to get this text. I hit done. And then I can hit right from here, right? I can just hit extract. And I have that text. I can even translate it on the fly, right? Just awesome features. Awesome features on this one. Now let's contrast this to what OnePlus gives you. You can take a screenshot with 3 fingers, which I think that's a neat touch, right? When it works. And then over here, you're like, okay, I want to grab the text. Doesn't really give you an option. There's an option to translate. And then it detects things on the screen, so maybe that way you can copy the text. But I mean, it's a little clunky compared to that one. Again, it's just not thought out at all. I say this with difficulty. I mean, it's really a shame for me to like have to walk away from the OnePlus Open, because I really like that phone. I really tried to give it a chance, but it's been quite disappointing in terms of the software. And yeah, I say this with a lot of disappointment, but I'm switching back to the ZFold 5. I really tried to like this phone, but Samsung is coming out with their ZFold 6 now. Unfortunately, I don't know if they're improving the battery. They haven't really made it a priority. I think the battery is this phone's Achilles heel. Many people complain like, oh, the front screen is not great, it's so slim. If they just made it bigger, I mean, even compared to the OnePlus Open, I mean, the difference isn't really enormous, right? Yes, this is wider, but it's not enormous, right? And you can hold this with one hand and it's easier to navigate and all of that. And you see more on this screen actually, as I have shown. But the big issue with this phone is the charging speed and the battery. If they fix these 2 things, this phone will outdo any other phone, in my opinion. Yeah, they can make it a little lighter, and that's already happening on the ZFold 6. The ZFold 6 is going to be light, just like this one. It should weigh the exact same as the OnePlus Open. But my issue with the screen actually being this wide is it is very close to a normal phone screen, that even using this phone, I found myself using the front screen way more than the inner screen. And that's a problem. You buy these phones to use the inner screen. If you could do everything on the front screen, why did you buy this phone? You're better off with a candy bar phone. But you get my point. There's no point going for a foldable if you're not really gonna use the inner screen. So that's really my 2 cents on this. One area in the software that OnePlus does better, in my opinion, is the camera. And the reason I say that is when you snap a photo with this phone, okay, and let me give you an example here. It's instant. Watch when I press and when I open the photo, it's instant. That secondary processing doesn't take that long, and I'll show you what I mean. On the Samsung, when you snap a photo, there's a bit of a delay, but when you open it, it's almost like it does some loading and then the picture changes. This is especially evident in dark light. You'll realize that the picture will process and then, you know, it will change suddenly, and it's telling me to clean my lens here. Just fine, I just cleaned it, but you see what I mean. If I snap a picture and open it, there's always this like delay where it will change something and then the picture will be active. The other thing is on this phone, when you edit videos and save them, it takes a very long time to save. On the OnePlus Open, it doesn't take a long time. It actually saves them quite fast. One final nail in the coffin that I want to mention between these two phones. Call quality between both is fine, microphone quality is fine, speaker quality is fine, but then again, this phone has better speakers. When I went out with this phone versus this one holds a very good network signal. The Z Fold 5, I mean, it has rarely ever dropped the network on me, and it's always connected to 5G. When I used the OnePlus Open, it was very frustrating. It was always in LTE, or it would lose network entirely, even in areas where I've never ever lost signal before. These small things are so frustrating on such a phone that should be, you know, at the pinnacle of the hardware. I mean, I really hope this video gets to OnePlus, because they really, I mean, they, like, it's like they really had the opportunity to be the best foldable out there, and they just missed the mark, right? It's unfortunate. The hinge in this phone is very simple compared to the one on the Fold, and when you open it, it feels very light. It has almost no resistance, and then it snaps open at the end, and it doesn't even feel like it feels like a very light snap. When you open the hinge on the Z Fold 5, it feels like it's premium. It's so much resistance to open it. Like it's actually kind of hard to open it from how much resistance there is in the hinge. And then once you get that open, you can stop it at any point, and then once you get it open, you know that, you know, it just feels very sturdy. It feels like this is almost a cheap hinge compared to this one, right? And that's something I really like about this. The Z Fold also, this is something I didn't hear anyone talking about. I think they nailed this gap very well. I don't know what they did. Whenever I open this phone, the screen is pristine. It's always very clean and clear. Whenever I open this phone, there's always dust on the inner screen. I don't know if it's because the gap here is bigger from that hinge. I can't tell the reason, but I think that Samsung did a better job with this hinge. And this phone has IPX8, whereas this one I think is only IPX4. So for sure there is a difference in the technology used on the hinges. Also on the Samsung one, whenever I look around here, there's nothing around this hinge. The OnePlus Open one tends to collect dust. And I mean, it might not be clear in this video because I did make sure the phones are clean before I filmed this, but it kind of like collects a lot of dirt in there compared to the other one. Another thing is just the support. I think Samsung has better support than OnePlus. So if you ever break your inner screen on this phone, I've heard very bad stories about getting your OnePlus repaired versus the Z Fold. So these are my thoughts. I mean, if you're not coming from a Z Fold 5 and you want to deal with the experience here, that's up to you. But you will experience some frustrating things. Not some, a lot. And just mentioning that, I remembered one more thing. I like to record some of my calls because I tend to forget things. So it helps me, you know, go back, re-listen to the calls and recall something if I had forgotten it, whether it was an address or sometimes, you know, if someone needs to give me a quick note on something or a phone number, that call is recorded, I can open it and check it. This phone, I use this app called Cube ACR, right? On the Note, you just download it and then you can enable the connector and it can record your calls and manage them and all of that good stuff. On this phone, there's absolutely no way you can enable the connector. It is like this by default. It is locked from OnePlus. Why? The only solution around it is to root the phone. Believe it or not, you have to root the phone and use the native OnePlus recorder that is disabled on the phone because it's, you know, for any reason they disabled it. That to me is another big downside. So, all in all, I wouldn't jump the gun and buy this. if you're thinking of buying a OnePlus Open, trust me, just go for the Fold 5. It's a better phone, despite its shortcomings. This will just leave you frustrated. I mean, a great battery and a great camera don't mean much to me when I'm having trouble using my apps. The other day I was trying to talk to someone on Telegram. I couldn't even open the chat box because this dock at the bottom overlapped the chat box, right? And this happened in the widescreen mode, and I was very frustrated because I really wanted to respond to that person, and I simply could not do it. And just to cover my contacts and my information, but you could see that here. Look at this. Look in the bottom right. I just fired up the application. I mean, look at that. I can't click into the chat. Just horrible, horrible software. I mean, come on guys, you need to fix this. Okay, anyways, that concludes my video. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, like the video for more. I'll be uploading more videos in the future. And thanks for watching. Peace.